Has college football hit a rock bottom moment? It's become a question to ask as lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are scrambling around trying to save or protect college sports. Should they just let it burn down? Should it start over? Would it be better if nothing happened in this cycle and 2, 3, 4 years from now, college athletics had to start all the way over? I'm going to talk about it on today's show. Plus, we'll get a visit from college football insider Jon Wilner and Olivia, who asked a question in a news conference that went viral. She'll be along to read the news. All of that on an all-new episode of BFT Unfiltered. I don't know about you, but I'm watching lawmakers scramble around Washington, D.C., trying to get this Protect College Sports Act passed. A lot of conference commissioners working on it, a lot of boosters, interested parties, oilmen in Texas working on this thing as well. But in the background, there's a looming question. And I've talked to some athletic directors, some Division I college athletic directors who they're not ready to say this publicly, but who are wondering if the better option here would be to allow college sports to completely collapse, to let it hit a rock bottom moment. And I just want to bear with me for just a second. And let's think about what's happened in college athletics. You saw the NCAA, this archaic, essentially aircraft carrier trying to turn itself in the middle of the sea. It's an impossible thing. The NCAA, which is really just the member institutions, having a really difficult time pivoting to the times and getting with compensating athletes. This caused a massive problem because what happened? The guardrails fell off, completely broke down. It became all about NIL or the illusion of NIL. And then it became, we're going to do revenue sharing. And then the transfer portal was unlimited, unrestricted free agency. And of course, you had expansion and realignment going on in the background of that made the system itself very unstable. What has resulted from that is a ecosystem that favors a new set of powers, right? And some of them were the old powers, like Ohio State is still Ohio State. But I'm looking at some of the SEC schools that have traditionally thrived, in that conference itself traditionally thrived, and I'm going, hey, wait a minute, something shifted here because they no longer have more money. They no longer have more resources. They're up against some schools in the Big Ten that have figured some things out, including the University of Oregon, Indiana, and then, Ohio State, Michigan, traditional powers, right? But, there's a lot of people in college athletics who are in favor of getting some kind of parameters, so limiting the ability for athletes to transfer, give them a one-time transfer opportunity. That would help with roster retention on the lower levels of college athletics. But there are others who are going, wait a minute, revenue sharing and capping revenue sharing and capping NIL and, it's all great in theory, or capping the ability to retain your own players is all great in theory, but you're still going to have schools that have deep-pocketed boosters who are more creative than others that are going to circumvent the system, and nothing's really going to change. And oh, by the way, 5, 6 years from now, what we currently see as the system is probably not going to be the system. Who knows? I had one conference commissioner tell me, who knows if there will even be conferences in 5 years, 6 years. What may ensue after this is, the football breaking away. What may ensue is the Big Ten and the SEC forming their own thing. What may happen is, a super conference. And so nobody quite knows what's going to happen. Would you have then Olympic sports go back to regional competition? And so there's a group of people in college athletics. There's a faction out there that's against this. And it's not just Florida State, Clemson, Miami, who are afraid to get stuck in the ACC, or Stanford and Cal, who are going to get stuck in the ACC if this legislation passes. And it's not just maybe some conferences that are going, hey, wait a minute, if you're capping it at 18 schools, there's really only 8 spots in the Power 4 conferences for schools to move up. So there's very limited ability in the group of 6 for schools to move up. You might just completely freeze everybody in place here for the next 5 years. And would that necessarily be good or bad, or isn't a free market a better place? And so there's a group of people out there that believe that college athletics would be better off letting the current system burn. Let the house burn to the ground. let it burn all the way down, start all the way over. Now, I want to raise that question as a possibility today, that maybe the better thing is to let this play out instead of putting in some false guardrails. I'm skeptical that anything really will change. Maybe you're tweaking around the edges with this bill. And oh, by the way, by the time it gets potentially to the House in the fall, are you just opening yourself up to litigation and college athletes who are going to file lawsuit after lawsuit because they want to transfer? I think there's a number of problems with this, and I'm starting to think that maybe the better solution is to let it burn. I don't know. You tell me in the comment section. I'm excited about the football that's going to be played this year. I'm excited to get talking about the football and get back to the football. But with this legislation going on in the background and this scramble to save college athletics going on in the background, I can't help but wonder if ultimately what's going to happen here is nothing, and the system itself will eventually hit a rock bottom and have a rock bottom moment that might be good for the ecosystem. Might be good to see what gets born from the rubble. Coming up on today's show, Jon Wilner is going to join us, College Football Insider. We're going to talk about Cal and Stanford. What is their path back to legitimacy? Can they get out of the ACC? Was it just a bad circumstance, an unfortunate circumstance for those two schools to get stuck where they were? Plus, Olivia Cleary will be here to read the news. She had a viral moment earlier this week where she asked Dylan Raiola, the transfer from Nebraska to Oregon, a question that has everybody in a tizzy. Olivia reads the news later in the show. Stick around. All new episode of BFT Unfiltered. I've been thinking a lot about Oregon and Washington, the Ducks and the Huskies, Big Ten rivals. I've been thinking a lot about that series, that rivalry, and talking about it as well. And here to talk more about it, Jon Wilner, my cohort on Canzano and Wilner, the podcast, joining us. All right. So when I say Oregon-Washington rivalry, what do you think about?
I think that it is, one of the underrated rivalries nationally, which is understandable because it's kind of a new one. That's not like they're going back 50 or 75 years, like some of these rivalries. But if you're just assessing the last quarter century, you could put it top 15 nationally, I would say, for no doubt about it, even though it's been mostly lopsided toward Oregon, and a lot of not only the wins and losses, but the actual games have been a lot of blowouts. But, for hatred, it's pretty good. And, they're both nationally relevant mostly. So it's really good. I think it's on the West Coast. It's kind of my favorite right now.
USC, UCLA is not.
I don't know. It's all right. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. I lived in LA for 5 years. I covered that rivalry. It's good, but UCLA has been so irrelevant for so long. They haven't won a conference title in 30 years. So, Washington playoff a couple of times, Oregon playoff a couple of times. It's good. And and the part of it is it's two great stadiums, very different, completely different in a lot of ways, but it is a great atmosphere for those games. And there's so much, overlap with Portland, Seattle, with alums, just with everything. It's really good. It's underrated nationally.
One of the things I've been thinking about is, Oregon the last 2 years, they have a blowout win 2 years ago. Last year's game, it didn't feel close to me. I don't think Oregon's thinking about Washington. I think they're focused on Ohio State. They're focused on the playoff. And I sort of need Jedd Fisch in Washington to have a breakout year and challenge Oregon or maybe beat Oregon or, to make this, to kind of renew this. Can this still be a rivalry if Oregon wins the next 5 in a row?
I mean, I think it is. Oregon. How long did Oregon win? Did they win 10 in a row?
12,
no.
I think. I thought it was like 12.
And it was still a rivalry, but I agree with you. The bigger issue there is Oregon was just much better prepared for life in the Big Ten. We've talked about that. They had prepared for that without really preparing for it for years. And so when it actually came to fruition, they were ready with the resources and the overall alignment on campus. And, they were just ready to roll in the Big Ten. And the Huskies were not. Part of that, to be fair to Washington, part of it is DeBoer's departure in the after last year, the Pac-12, I mean, the roster was gutted, right? When he left after their playoff run. So you have to kind of, to be fair to the Huskies, you kind of have to take the coaching change that comes at the same time as the conference change into account. But Oregon was better prepared. They have not missed a beat playing in the Big Ten. Washington is catching up, and the resource issue, the half shares of the media revenue, is a much bigger deal for Washington. There's no doubt about that.
The Huskies have 5 returning offensive linemen. They got Damon Williams Jr. Jed Fish it's year 3. That's a magic year for Jed Fish. Is the gap in your mind between Oregon and Washington widening because of the revenue, or is it narrowing because Jed's been there for 3 years and they're going to be better this year?
I kind of think you have to start. The starting point for that gap to be created was just two seasons ago, 2024, because before that, Washington won 3 in a row in 22 and 23. So if you kind of take this 24 as a, zeroed out, then last 2 years, I think the gap has widened, to be honest with you. We'll see what they do this year. It's in Eugene, so it's going to be hard. But I do think Washington is better equipped on the offensive line to deal with Oregon's defensive line. That has been the place where Oregon has been recruiting either high school recruits or the portal at a different level from the Huskies, really, is the lines of scrimmage. Oregon's been at, an Ohio State, Michigan level at the line of scrimmage, and Washington's been in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten level. And it's been a big point of emphasis for Fish, and he's got some talent. There's no doubt about that. They brought in a 5-star. He's got future pros on the offensive line, but we'll see how much they develop this year and if they're ready for Oregon, because Oregon's defensive line is absolutely loaded.
Yeah, and the Oregon just has depth. Oregon has guy after guy after guy on the offensive line and defensive line. It's, I want to pivot a little bit to another rivalry in your backyard, the big game. You've got Stanford and Cal. I know that this week you talked a little bit with Tosh Lapoy at Cal, and, the season practices are starting. Where are those two programs? How are Stanford and Cal doing if we're checking in?
They have a pulse, I would say. That, contrary to what public opinion might be, there is a pulse on both campuses. It's a big year. This is the ACC. I'm not going to say it's winnable because Miami is rolling right now, but it's certainly, they can be relevant in the ACC. There's plenty of mediocrity there, and it's an important stretch for both teams. If they had been relevant in the late 2010s and coming out of COVID, they'd be in the Big Ten right now. They just would. But they both suffered from, I could go on about this for hours, but they both suffered from horrendous leadership at the very worst time and apathy on campus at the very worst time, with realignment coming and the Pac-12 collapsing. And so they weren't, doesn't it make a lot more sense for them to be in the Big Ten with Oregon, Washington, and the LA schools? Of course it does. But they weren't ready. And so I do think that they have kind of emerged from that muck. Both schools have chancellor's president who are alums. Both schools have famous former players who are their GMs, Andrew Luck and Ron Rivera. And both schools have first-year coaches who are also alums. So there's a lot of parallels, and both schools, actually have enough money. If with the willpower, they have enough money to compete for players. Stanford could be, they could be the best team in the country if they actually wanted, because they have more resources than anybody, right? Their endowment's, $80,000 trillion million. It's just a matter of willpower with them. And Cal has got plenty of money too.
What's your read on Tosh Lapoy? Because he leaves Oregon as a D coordinator. He's got sort of this, I don't want to say sketchy, but he's got this, he paints outside the lines, right?
Yes, he does.
This is the guy who paints outside the lines. Is he going to be successful in this era at Cal?
Well, I think there's two pieces to that. One is he getting the players? And he can get players. As you know, Tosh can recruit, and they are recruiting very well. He's a madman. He's got a quarterback. He inherited one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He is bringing in good players. So then it's, can they coach? Can they develop? Can they game plan? Can they adjust during the season when teams have adjusted to them? That's the area where I'm not sure of, especially on offense, because Lupoy has got a defensive background. He played defensive line at Cal, right? He was Oregon's defensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator is a rookie in that role, has never been a primary play caller. So that's where I'm wondering, are they going to, it's one thing to have talent, but if you're going to be good, if you're going to win 9 games and be relevant, you got to have the coaching mesh. And that's where I'm not sure.
I always think about, to what end, what this madness. And so in Stanford's case, is the ACC as good as it gets, or do you think there is a path for them to the Big Ten? And with this legislation going on, limiting the number of schools, I just don't see it. And by the way, if they were admitted to the Big Ten, I'm not sure the Big Ten takes Cal. Like, would they need Cal if they had Stanford and Notre Dame? Like, if those were the additions, and by the way, that would put them over the limit of number of schools in your conference. But how do you sort of read the life raft that is the ACC and where Stanford and Cal could jump to eventually?
Well, the ACC contract is through 2036, the current grant of rights. There is if this bill, the Protect College Sports Act, gets passed as written, I don't see how Cal and Stanford can get into the Big Ten for the reasons you outlined. They need chaos. They need the bill to not pass, and then they need another round of realignment. They need the ACC's grant of rights. The fee for leaving the conference drops in 2030. So they need chaos at that point, and the Big Ten to say, you know what, it makes a lot. The ACC kind of implodes, so the grant of rights is no longer valid. And the Big Ten says, you know what, it makes a lot more sense for us to form a Western wing of 6. And boy, the presidents and the Big Ten are dying to get both Cal and Stanford, right? I mean, arguably two of the 5 best schools in all of major college football. Heart of Silicon Valley, access to tons of money, tons of influence, lots of Big Ten alums out here. Makes all the sense in the world. Rivalries and built-in rivalries with the other West Coast schools. I mean, it makes too much sense, which is why it probably won't happen in college sports. But they need chaos in 2030. If this bill passes and there is, peace and calm across the land on the expansion front, then they are not getting out of the ACC.
Yeah, I think there's some people out there, I'm not going to say a lot. There's some people out there that would prefer the thing burned down, burn it to the ground, start all the way over. And I think Cal and Stanford have to be in that court. And you point out the presidents in the Big Ten Conference who don't run the Big Ten, but they are the presidents in the Big Ten. They're academics. They would love to tell their friends at a cocktail party, we've got Stanford, we've got Cal, look at our academic standing, but it's not what moves the needle.
Well, and they a few years ago, right? Stanford and Cal tried to get in the Big Ten, and the presidents were on board with it, but Fox said, we don't have the money.
Yeah.
So it was not gonna, they were gonna have to basically come for free, or everybody else was gonna have to take a haircut, and that didn't work out. But it was the TV point, as you mentioned, it was TV, and that was based on the teams not doing well on the field. Empty stands, terrible visuals, no TV ratings. Again, they both were on heading to rock bottom at the wrong time.
Wrong time. If you had Jim Harbaugh, Stanford, David Shaw, early years Stanford, the Big Ten is opening the door.
Jeff Tedford, Cal. I mean, it's if realignment happens in 2010, 2011. Like what Larry Scott tried to do with the Pac-16, right? If the Big Ten had tried to do that, Cal and Stanford are easy. No brainers for the Big Ten at that point.
Jon Wilner, you're the best. You can find him at wilnerhotline.com. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Stick around. Olivia reads the news coming up next. One of my favorite installments of the show is when Olivia comes on the show and reads the news, which is what we title this segment. Olivia reads the news. Olivia Cleary joining us just the other day. You saw the video. We went behind the scenes at Oregon State's practice, which, by the way, I left the house at 3 o'clock in the morning to get down there in time for Jamarcus Shepard's bike ride. But it was a lot of fun. We went behind the scenes. You saw it, but...
Yeah, that is so early. Are you like a coffee guy? Like, how do you wake up that early?
That is painful. Yeah, no, that's painful. It's almost one of those cases where I said I might as well just stay up. You know, like you have those. But I did something I've never done before that morning. So I drove to Corvallis. I got into town a little early, and Jamarcus Shepard was supposed to meet me at 5:15 out in front of the Valley Football Center. He's going for his bike ride. And so I went to Starbucks. And Starbucks doesn't open till 5. I don't know if you knew this. So I was sitting at Starbucks at 4:45, waiting outside like I was going to rob the place, and just waiting for the baristas to open the doors. And then I put in a mobile order right when you could put it in. I walked through the doors, and they both looked up at me, the two baristas, like, "What are you doing here?" But that was a first. And then I got over to the stadium, and he was all suited up. You saw him in his gear. He was ready to go for a bike ride. So yeah, high energy guy. A lot of energy.
What does he do? Does he have coffee? Like, how is he just like that? Do you know? Did you ask?
I don't know, because you don't know in that setting if he's just acting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, the camera's going to be there. John's going to be there. We want his viewers.
I don't think he was.
Yeah, I don't think he was either.
I feel like I have had very limited interactions with him, but I feel like it seems really genuine, like, and that's what you kind of need, I feel like, in a football coach, someone that can be like up.
I think the video helped him, because I think if you're an Oregon State fan or somebody who's on the fence with him, you got to see how much he cares about kids. You could see that in the video. He's slapping backs. Every kid he's treating a little different. You could see he's like, you know, he's socially gifted. You know, and I think there's part of that worries me a little bit from a head coach standpoint, because he's going to be great with media. He's going to be great with donors. He's going to be great with kids. But there's a limited bandwidth that you have for energy. And I wonder if he will run into what Dan Lanning ran into at the end of his first season, where he was just kind of on fumes. And so I think he's really going to have to pick and choose. You know, he can't be meeting everybody at 5 o'clock in the morning to go for a bike ride. But I also thought it was interesting. There was no restrictions on what we were, where we were able to go or what we were able to see, which was really cool. One thing, he just didn't want us to shoot anything on like the boards in the background, the whiteboards in the meeting rooms that gave away any of their game plan, their pass protections, their depth chart, stuff like that. And it was really interesting because we posted the video, and then about 6 o'clock, I got a frantic message from him saying, "Oh my gosh, our pass protections were on one of the boards in the background of one of your shots. Can you take the video down?" And I went, "No, video's not coming down, but let me look at what it was." And it literally was this scene where I'm walking down a hallway, and there's about a half a second glimpse of the running back meeting room where you could see the board in the background. And I got to be honest with you, it was blurry. I couldn't have read anything on it. But I was able to kind of edit that little second and a half out of the video inside of YouTube, so that he felt like UTEP wasn't going to look at his running back depth chart on day one. I mean, I don't know what advantage you'd get out of that, but coaches are paranoid. But I think by and large it helped him. I mean, you tell me, you saw it.
Yeah, I mean, so I don't. My first reaction when I saw it is, first of all, I love being a girly girl. I always tell my guy friends, like, sucks to be you guys. Like, I don't know what you guys do for fun, but I love being a girl. It's so much more fun. But there are a few cases where I really get gender envy, and I know there's like it's rare, but you know, there can be girl kickers and stuff like that. But it's dunking a basketball, and then when I see stuff like that, it just makes me wish I could play college football. Like, it just I wouldn't want to wake up, I don't think, at 5 in the morning, but if that was my coach and that was the energy and I just felt that special, I would want to do it. Like, it makes it seem so fun.
Definitely there's a change of energy. And it's one of the things that I really didn't include in the piece, and I think I could talk about here more, is there were a lot of support staffers who came up to me in between when we were filming, as we were kind of standing waiting for the next meeting to start or whatever. And they would tell me, to a person, they kept saying, "Gosh, can you feel the energy? Can you feel the difference between Trent Bray energy and this energy, or even Jonathan Smith or Mike Riley energy for people who had been around the program a long time. None of them are going to come out and say it, but I can tell you that the support staff and the athletic department staff are looking at Jamarcus Shepard and going, this guy's going to be a lot more fun. This is going to be a lot more high tempo. Now, will that result in wins in year one? Probably not. Like, this is probably not a team that's going to get to 6 wins and go to a bowl game, but I think they can get to 4. I think they can be a lot more fun. And people have to remember, in Jonathan Smith's first season, I think he went 2-10. Like, you have to, there's a growth year. This is a growth year. It's a foundational year for him. But I think he helped himself with fans. I think he helped sell some tickets. I think people got to know him a little better. And he kept his word, because I said to him early on, right when he got the job, I said, I want to shadow you. I want to do kind of a day in the life thing, because nobody's done that. Like, the schools do it, but they give you the version that they want you to see. And what I really wanted was, I wanted a version that was real. And we have a plan to do this also at Oregon. And it's interesting. I had a number of other coaches at Oregon State, and some other colleges who reached out to me after and said, hey, that would be really cool if you did that with our program. So they were, I think other people were looking at it going, that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, especially now, I feel like a lot of the times in college football, everyone's so secretive. I mean, as a media member, we're not allowed to go to practices a lot of the time, or, it's just a short little window. So it's really cool to see someone like external that's not, within the program, from a PR lens, kind of putting out what you want everyone to see. I think that's really cool, because I feel like everything's so secretive nowadays. And so it's cool that, you get kind of unlimited access, with the exception of the boards in the background for obvious reasons. But I'm excited. I'm excited to keep up with this.
Favorite part of the day, 2 favorite parts. One was when he got back from the bike ride, he rode in circles around me. All right. He was riding his bicycle around me like it was a little kid. And we hadn't started filming yet. And I don't know if he thought we were on camera, but he kept yelling, process, as he's going around in circles. And we were trying to get the cameras going, because he kind of came out of the dark. He was riding through the dark. And we were like, oh, crap, he's on. Then the second part was his special teams coach, Ricky Brumfield, is going to be an interesting character this season, because remember, special teams were a debacle at Oregon State last year. They couldn't snap the ball. You were there. They couldn't get a punt off. They couldn't make a field goal. They are taking special teams seriously. And I was in that meeting, and Ricky Brumfield was like, you got to wake up violent.
I hope y'all all woke up and chose violence. I really don't give a damn what we have. If it's in helmets, shoulder pads, full gear, whatever it is, wake up and choose what? Violence.
At the end of it, I was like, I'm pretty motivated. Like, he was a motivational speaker. It was like listening to David Goggins tell you to get up, get off your butt, and get running. So the special teams plan at Oregon State, they're at least talking the talk on day one.
We'll see if they can walk the walk, because I think that's the part that's going to be under the microscope, because that was just, saying it is a debacle, I feel like it doesn't even give it justice. Like, it was so brutal. I was like, shoot, put me out there. Like, let me go out there and snap the ball. But I probably couldn't do it. It's so much easier for us to say, but
I kept thinking there has to be somewhere on campus among the 20,000 students at Oregon State, there had to be somebody who could snap the ball. There had to be some high school long snapper who was just dying in the crowd going, hey, I could do that. Like, get me back out there. So the fact that Trent Bray didn't prioritize that, and I thought it was really interesting in the interview that I did with Bray on the show, that he talked, I said, what would you do differently? And he talked about his coaching staff and the structure of his coaching staff. I think he would have taken someone else and put him on special teams. And I find it interesting that Jamarcus Shepard took Ricky Brumfield, who he coached with years ago. They coached special teams together years ago. He made him his special teams coordinator. And then Jamarcus Shepard was in the meeting. The head coach on day one, he didn't go off with the offense. He didn't go off with the defense. He went with the special teams for that meeting. He wanted to be in on it, which I think sends a signal to the whole team saying this is really important and we're going to prioritize this.
Yeah, I'm feeling optimistic around Oregon State, and that's coming from an Oregon alum. So, I think what you said, I don't think it's going to be like crazy off the bat. It takes time to develop a culture, to kind of set a standard. But I'm optimistic. I honestly think that maybe that high energy that, you feel like you're walking into a TED Talk every time you step into the football facility, I think it could work for them. But we'll see.
At Oregon State, there's a whole bunch of new next year, this season. There's a lot of new out there.
Oh yeah.
Shepard's new. His athletic director, Kevin Griffin, new. Play caller on offense, new. Has not done this before at this level. New. 60% of this roster is new. There's just a lot of new there, and that tends to not result in success right off the gate. But we'll see what they can do.
And who knows? They might shock. They might shock everybody. You know, it maybe that's how everyone else is looking at it. Like, okay, maybe, you know, Oregon State, they're still working on their own stuff. Like, you know, who knows? Maybe that's like going to be a make it or break it game for somebody else down the stretch who might overlook them because of all that newness. So I almost think it gives them maybe a little bit of an edge because maybe people are underestimating them a little bit.
For sure.
Yeah.
All right, what do you got? You scanned the planet. What are your stories today?
First things first, I got to talk about Madison beer again. Everyone knows how much I love Madison beer, but there was a little bit of controversy because at the end of it looks like a Chargers practice, it's like Madison beer and Justin Herbert. They're sitting on the grass. She's fixing his hair. It's really cute. But some people were like, wait a second. Why are you doing this? Like, lock in. You haven't even won a playoff game yet. Why are you sitting on the sideline, like canoodling with your new fiance? But then also on the other hand, it's like, you know, this is normal. Like, players bring their families. Did you see this? What was your kind of point of view on this? What's your take?
I saw this, and the first thing I thought of is there's a guy on TikTok who says 3 things you shouldn't do if you're a man, and it's things like you shouldn't be drinking out of a paper straw. I think you know, if you're Justin Herbert, you should not, and you've got those locks. I should talk, but you have that hair. You should not have Madison Beer, you know, twisting your hair in her fingers in a public setting like that. You're just setting yourself up for ridicule. And here's the thing: it's all cutesy. It's cute, and we're happy for you. You're getting, but if he doesn't have success on the field, you know what they're going to do? They're going to blame her, like you know, they blamed. You know, Taylor Swift if Travis Kelce's having a bad game or he's gone soft, or, you know, Jessica Simpson with back in the day when she was dating Tony Romo or whoever. Like, I think there's going to be a blowback with Herbert if he doesn't have success on the field. So brace for it. You're the biggest Madison Beer fan out there. And what is it about her anyway? I don't even know what she does. Like, she sings.
She's just so funny, and she's so cool, and she has great style. Like, she's just an it girl. Like, who wouldn't like her? Like, she's been on the internet forever. I saw this really funny tweet. I think it was Barstool, and they were like, look at me, I'm Justin Herbert. Like, I'm a franchise quarterback. I have a hot girlfriend, and she plays with my long, luscious hair after practice. Like, honestly, I wonder how much of it is rooted in just, like, jealousy. You know what I mean? Like, why are we, you know, players bring their family around, but I will say 100%. I know the second, like, he does something not even terrible, even just something mediocre, like has maybe a mediocre game, Twitter is going to go crazy. They're going to be like, remember that video of Madison Beer playing with his hair? Madison Beer playing with his hair isn't going to make him a worse or better quarterback. I don't know. I think it's dramatic, but I think it's entertaining. So
it's a fine line. I'm just saying it's a fine line. I'm happy for them, but he's got to go out and perform well or they're going to blame her.
Oh, 100%. This next one I'm going to be kind of vague with because I don't even want you to know what my opinion is with it. Dylan Raiola comments on Nebraska during Oregon's media day. He says, we have a lot more talent here than we did at Nebraska.
What are the biggest differences between just Nebraska and Oregon just in terms of team culture and vibe? I mean, it's very different, like a hard-nosed Midwest team versus a team that's known for kind of like the swag, the hype, the newness. What's it been like?
It's definitely been a transition. I'll start with the landscape of outside, and there's not cornfields here. There's mountains and trees, and I love the nature. As far as football, it's different. You know, with coaches and players, like we have a lot more talent than we did at Nebraska. And I don't say that to knock on them, but I think everybody will know that. But I'm very grateful for my time there. Learned a lot from my coaches, teammates. Still have those relationships, but you know, I think I'm really excited for what Oregon's going to bring, you know, not only to my life, but for my team.
Look, he's following a blueprint here, and he's doing what you know, Bo Nix did. He's doing what Dylan Gabriel did. He's doing what Dante Moore did. You know, you go from a place that maybe things didn't work well for you. You go to Oregon, and where they have resources, you sit a year, you get your feet underneath you. This is all good. This is all positive. I think Dan Lanning has developed a really good system there for quarterbacks coming through. they've certainly identified that they can take guys and they can salvage them and help them get their feet underneath them. But Raiola is the ultimate. Like he disappointed when he went to Nebraska, just like Dante Moore did. And I think, I think he obviously there's other quarterbacks in the room at Oregon that might want to play next year. But I think everybody's looking at Dylan Raiola saying, okay, you'll be the next guy in when Dante Moore leaves.
And I mean, I don't know. I think there's going to be a little bit more of competition with Brock Thomas than a lot of people think. Maybe that's a hot take. Maybe it's not. But this whole conversation was really interesting to me because I was the one that actually asked the question.
Okay.
And so it's always so weird when it's like you hear your own voice on Twitter. Yeah. I don't know how long it takes you to get used to that, but it was really interesting to see the reaction because I was like, this is objectively true. Talent, Oregon consistently has better recruiting classes than Nebraska, better overall classes when you look at, transfers, returners, and like the combination of incoming freshmen. I don't know why people were thinking that he was, throwing shade. I was like, I don't feel like this isn't that deep, guys. And also, at the end of the day, talent is a lot, but it's not everything. I mean, you look at Indiana, obviously extremely talented roster, but a large reason they were able to win was because they were experienced too.
All these coaches want to get older. I didn't necessarily see this as like some wild thing that he was throwing out there. No. And to your point on, do you ever get used to it? I'll tell you something I tend to not do. I tend to not ask questions in those settings. I don't like giving the TV people my good questions.
That's so fair. I was actually having this conversation. I wanted to get your opinion about this. I was having this conversation with one of my friends because I was like, I'm young, I'm in the industry, I'm trying to kind of grow my credibility a little bit, grow my brand a little bit, become more recognizable, I guess. And I don't know. So I was like, this is my question. I'm like, I wish people knew it was. And he was like, you could pull one of those, like, I asked, Dylan Raiola this. But I feel like, I don't know, this might be a hot take. I feel like it's a little tacky sometimes in a media setting. Like, it's one thing if I sit down, or maybe not even just in a media setting, in a Twitter setting. You know, everyone's taking from everywhere. Like, so-and-so said this. If I was doing a broadcast, maybe I'd say, I asked this.
He told me. Dylan Raiola told me.
It's very, sometimes I just feel like it's pick me. Have you heard that saying before? Like, it's very pick me.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Tell us, inform us on what that means.
Okay, this is another one. Everyone get your pens and papers out. I'm going to educate everybody.
Pick me? I thought you said not pygmy, like a pygmy goat.
Like P-I-C-K. Stems from Grey's Anatomy. Okay. Meredith Grey, she's like, pick me, choose me, love me. And it's become this whole thing because people are like, you're a pick me girl. If you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm just like, I don't know. It's almost like you're trying to get attention and everyone's like, okay, come on now. Like, you're not being
it's not all about you is what you're saying. Okay, but
exactly.
But here's the thing. Like, if I'm in a group setting with reporters, I feel like every reporter should feel this way. I think I have the best questions. Okay. I think I'm going to ask the best questions. I'm going to have the best conversation with these athletes. And if you don't feel like you have the best questions, then you should work harder at getting the best questions. But my hesitation in that group setting with asking a question in an open forum is there are a lot of reporters who will sit back and not ask any questions, and they just cherry pick all the answers. And it's incredibly frustrating. And especially when I was working as a beat reporter early in my career, it was incredibly frustrating for me to ask 2 or 3 questions that no one else was going to ask and then watch everybody else steal the answer. And so what I really started doing is I stopped asking questions in those settings. And I said, if I can pull the person off to the side and talk to them one-on-one, better yet, I will just sit back and listen to everybody else's question, because I'm not giving mostly TV reporters, apologies to all my TV friends, but mostly TV reporters are sitting back just taking that sound and using it. And I thought, why am I giving them content? But there are some settings and some formats where you don't have the ability to pull somebody to the side and ask a question. But like, I don't generally ask like Dan Lanning or Jamarcus Shepard. I don't ask them a question because I can reach out to them directly, or I can text them, or I can call them. I can get an answer, or I can pull them off to the side. I'm not going to give that question to the whole room. But, I get what you're saying. As a young reporter in that room, you kind of have to ask the question.
The other thing that's weird is I have a little bit of a vocal fry. Everyone makes fun of me. I watch probably too much Kardashians. So when I hear it, I'm like, guys, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And then I hear it back and I'm like, holy vocal fry, that's terrible.
What's the vocal fry?
Vocal fry, you know, when the Kardashians talking, they're like, well, I went to the mall and, you know, Courtney did that. Like the vocal fry. Like, I have a little bit of it because I was raised on the Kardashians. And then also I try and be a little bit, I guess, strategic when I ask, like, you know, players questions. I want to just come off as myself. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a 23-year-old girl. I'm going to say I'm going to say words like vibe. I'm going to say words like hype. And I don't think it makes sense for me to, you know, come to another maybe 20-year-old kid and try and sound super polished and use these big words. So then it's when I hear it back and I hear my question, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so, like, I hear it now. This is so Kardashian coded. But I mean, I guess it worked. I mean, he gave me a good answer that ended up taking off on social media. Hopefully, you know, we still get him for media availabilities after that. But
You asked the question. I'll go back to this. Rasheed Wallace, when he gave that CTC answer, at the end of the day, CTC, cut the check. That was my question to Rasheed, but I only asked him that at his locker because no one else was asking him a question. He's standing there getting dressed, and I'm like, Rasheed, do you care if you're in Portland? And he whipped around. He wanted to talk, and at the end of the day, CTC, that's cut the check.
Cut the check. That's gonna be my next Instagram caption. That's a great quote. I forgot about that one. But yeah, next one I have for you, kind of along the same line, just maybe people saying things that, depending on how you look at it, maybe they shouldn't, maybe they should. Purdue's new athletic director, he comes up, I think he's trying to fire people up or something, make a statement, inspire people, and it just fell so flat. I had the worst secondhand embarrassment. I was like, this is so awful. He gets up there.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
Purdue has not won a championship, I believe, in any sport this decade. I think their last ones that I found were in 2010 for women's golf and then 1999 for women's basketball. Indiana just won the Natty in college football last year. Why are we saying this?
Yeah, it's a little tone deaf. I covered Purdue as a beat reporter 1998, 98, 99, okay? And Gene Cady was the basketball coach. Drew Brees was the quarterback, football, and, they were good. But there is a lot of animosity between Purdue and Indiana, obviously, and a lot of it stems from Indiana having some success, especially in basketball, in that era, like for about 3 decades under Bobby Knight. And then subsequently they just won the national championship. You should not be talking if you're at Purdue. You shouldn't be talking like that. But there's a little bit of the little brother syndrome going on with Purdue as it looks over at Indiana. They play in a rivalry that they play for a trophy called the Old Oaken Bucket. But people called it the Old Broken Bucket because those two teams in football were not very good for a long time. Indiana is really good. Purdue is trying, but the AD, you don't need to be throwing that shade. You don't let a sleeping dog lie. Indiana's not worried about you right now, and you just woke them up.
It's embarrassing. I think it's a little bit embarrassing. Like, that's like, they're not even on your radar. Why are you out there trying to, I don't know, ruffle some feathers? If you're going to say something, you better have something behind you to back it up. Right. You can't say something like that when your football team lost by like 53 points to them last year.
You just don't want to do this.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
A bad move.
Next one, we're staying with football. I'm excited for football season. If you can't tell, I feel like we've been talking a lot of football lately. So new Heisman Trophy odds via Polymarket. Julian saying he's the favorite. Then it's Arch Manning, CJ Carr, Dante Moore. Who do you think, if you had to pick one, who do you think come time will actually be in New York City and taking home the Heisman?
I'm looking for value when I look at that board, and what I see is Dante Moore has value. And I think, there are 3 teams that I really think can make the national championship game. There are more than 3 teams, but I have 3 teams that I really like. I like Miami. I like Oregon. I like Notre Dame as well. And so I'd be tempted to go with Carr or tempted to go with Dante Moore. But I'm also a little surprised that I'm looking at the board and I'm expecting to see Jeremiah Smith there, the Ohio State wide receiver.
Right.
He might be the best player in the country. And if you get into the late season and Ohio State is winning, I'm going to gather that Jeremiah Smith is playing well. And it just shows you how quarterback-centric this award has become. Also, there are a lot of people who are critical of the timing of the award. I have a vote in the Heisman. You vote on it the Monday after the conference championship games. So nothing that happens in the college football playoff counts in this award. And I don't think there's something about that that's not right. Like, I feel like they should wait till at least a few weeks of the playoff so we can factor in playoff performance in this award. But if you make me gun to my head pick something, I think the best value on that board is Dante Moore, because I think Oregon's gonna make that title game.
Here's the question I have is, like, if they do move the voting to later, do you think that almost eliminates somebody like, like somebody from a school like Boise State, like we saw? Like, do you think that almost eliminates them from getting it? Because then it's like everyone's going to be focused on the postseason,
Yeah.
And maybe someone who is quiet all season long, all regular season, has a breakout, performance in the college football playoff. I feel like that's not worthy of a Heisman compared to somebody who maybe, is at a smaller program. Maybe they didn't even make the CFP. Maybe they just made it to the first round. But they carried their team the whole season. I feel like that holds more weight than somebody, clutching up in postseason.
Yeah, but I mean, the Downtown Athletic Club says this is the award for the best college football player of the regular season. So to your point, yes, they give it, the weekend after the championship games, they will make this award. But I think as this playoff expands, the season's going to go so long that I kind of just wonder, like, will we award the Heisman and then have like a month of second guessing someday because somebody else sort of emerges as the best player of the postseason? Will they create a second award for the postseason? How do you sort of manage this if you're college football?
But I also feel like if they made a second award for the postseason, I feel like nobody would care about it. Like, the whole point of the Heisman is that it's historic, that some of the best have won it. Like, if they come up with a new one, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old head and I care about, history or something.
Purist.
But but I'm like, I feel like nobody cares about it. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be as excited. Like, I would want the historic Heisman that I could go talk to my grandpa about. He's bragging to his friends at the retirement home or something like that, being like, my son won the Heisman. If you say, oh, my son won this new award, half of the people in the retirement home are going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, no one.
I read a story one time. Jay Berwanger won the first Heisman Trophy award, and it wasn't the Heisman back there, right? Back in that day. I mean, it was the Heisman, but he didn't know what he won. He didn't know that he won this award that people would covet later. So when he took the trophy home, he used it as a hat rack. Like, he thought, it's a nice trophy, but what does it mean? So now all these years later, it's the Heisman Trophy. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't know that story. Used it as a hat rack.
Used it threw his hat. He put his hat on it because he thought it was, it's cool. It's a trophy, but he didn't know he had won the Heisman, back in those days. But I think it's also cool. Like, in the state of Oregon, you've got, Terry Baker at Oregon State, Heisman Trophy winner. You got Marcus Mariota at Oregon, Heisman Trophy winner. I'd like to see another one come to the Pacific Northwest, sure.
Right. I think they need to put some respect on West Coast football. I feel like there's all this talk, it's too much flash, it's too much glitz, it's too much glam. It's like, and what about it? Like, sorry, we're a little bit bougie over here, but there's
a lot of pick me going on out in the
exactly. Like, sorry, like, especially in the Midwest. I know I love Coach Kurt Cignetti. I think he's so great. I think he's such a personality. I love how just of a traditionalist he is. But he came out saying, this is like, I think it was more so, I don't even want to say like a dig, but more so kind of pointed towards the SEC Big Ten debate where he's like, in the Midwest, we play hard-nosed football. We're not in it for, I don't even know what the word he used at the top of my head, but he basically was like, I think he used the word hype. We're not in it for the hype. I would argue the West Coast is in it for the hype a little bit in that sense. I
think they're all in it for
and I think it works. And I think it works for the West Coast, Like, there's no need to knock it. Don't hate it because you ain't it. So I don't know. I'm like, I say embrace it.
I love it. Moving
but
on.
Speaking of bougie, Jahmyr Gibbs, Detroit Lions, highest paid running back in NFL history. His contract is worth up to almost $76 million, and I think it's like over almost 52 million guaranteed. That's crazy. Like I'd be making some insane bougie purchases if
What's
I
the
were.
first thing you'd buy if you had that $70 million contract? First purchase.
Oh gosh, that's really hard.
One
Honestly,
thing. What's that one thing you get? You go, what would you buy a house? You buy a car? You go on a trip?
I
What
feel
are you
like
doing?
I feel like the smart in me wants to say, I'd invest in like some property or something because in this economy, I feel like it's so hard. Like I was like, I should have been buying a house at the age of 5 years old at the rate everything is now. So
Yeah.
I'd want to say that, but also knowing me, I feel like I would just go on like an insane like Sephora run, or
Okay.
I would go and get like I don't know, some like nice designer bag, but nothing with logos. Like I'm
No
not a big
logo.
logo fan.
Okay.
I think it's tacky, but
All right.
something nice, something bougie, maybe some big sunglasses just so I can fit the
We'll
mold, but maybe
know.
something like that. Like
We'll
I go on a
know. Yeah. We'll see you at
yeah,
Sephora with your glasses on. We'll know that you hit the lottery.
exactly. What would be your purchase?
I think I'd go on a trip. I think I would
Oh
go
yeah.
kind of on a, yeah. I don't think I would quit working though. People, like let's say if you hit the
No.
lottery, I don't think I'd quit working. And people think I'm crazy for that, but I like it. I like what I do. And I have a guy, my mailman retired. He's one of these young retirees. I ran into him at the coffee shop and
Mhm.
he's like, I'm bored out of my mind. Like he's looking for a new hobby.
Mhm.
And so I think I would go on a big trip, maybe take a few weeks off and then come back and keep
Yeah.
working. But
Where would you go?
somewhere warm, sunny, warm.
Somewhere
I
warm.
collect beaches. I'll go to Bora Bora or something like that.
That sounds nice. I honestly am changing my answer. I would want to go on a trip, I think.
All right, trip
Maybe
two.
go
All right.
shopping. Maybe go shopping while I'm on my trip. But it's funny you
Okay.
said you wouldn't work because I feel like that's almost common or like a common mentality within our industry. Because when you first start out, you're not doing it for the money. Like I have my
Right.
friends who are accountants and like everything that they do is so stable. But then it's like, you tell someone what we do for our jobs or our goals, like something like that, and it's like, whoa, that's really sick. Like you get paid to, just
Yeah.
you get paid to almost do and talk about like what's most people's hobby, you
Yeah,
know?
and I think though there's a couple of downsides to it that I
Mhm.
think about is it does kind of ruin you as a fan over time,
Oh
and
yeah.
it takes something that you love to watch and everybody else's diversion, and it turns
Mhm.
it into a job. And I have a hard time going and just watching a game because I'm thinking about what I would be writing, what I would be saying. I'm
Mhm.
evaluating the performance. I'm watching the clock. I'm looking at the deadline, and I'm going, wait, I'm not here working. But
Yeah.
I tend to get more enjoyment watching like my kids play youth sports because
Yeah.
that takes all the pressure off, and I can just watch them play, and that's when I'm just become a fan. But but you figure out pretty early on in this business because you're working nights and weekends,
Oh
and all
yeah.
your friends are going off to Las Vegas or going to the coast
Mhm.
or whatever, and you're covering a little league game on a Saturday afternoon in the summer.
Mhm.
And so you figure out pretty quickly, like, you better love it because it
Yeah.
weeds you out otherwise.
Yeah, that was something I struggled with because I started my first job when I wasn't even graduated college yet. In those last
Yeah.
couple weeks in college, everyone's going out every single night of the week. You're trying to soak up your last like time as a college student. You're never going to get this time back. And it was like, I'm going to cover, maybe like I think it was baseball season, like
Mm.
baseball and softball. Like I'm covering, high school baseball, high school softball, still super
Yeah.
cool. But I remember my friends would be texting the group chat like, Olivia, where are you? Like, what time are you off work? And I'm like, guys, I'm doing the 11. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not making it. Like, if I
Yeah.
make it, like, maybe I'll come and pick you up. So that's what I ended up doing is I'd get off of work, I'd go to the college bars, I'd pick up my friends, and I'd take them to like Taco Bell or something.
Yeah.
It changes things for sure when it's like,
You figure out
you're
if you
having
love it right
yeah,
away.
FOMO.
Yeah.
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 But what I realized too is I feel like I have more FOMO when I'm
Hmm.
doing, something with my friends maybe, but there's like, if there was a game I could have been like covering or something I could have been
Yeah.
at, like, or even just
Well,
like,
the
even
other
if it's just, like a
the
press
other
conference,
the
like,
other
shoot.
job hazard is you're never really off. And
No.
so what I have found is there's a number of times, like it'll be a 4th of July and people are having an
Mhm.
adult beverage, and the minute I take a sip, the phone's ringing and somebody's made a trade, and now I'm going, I need to write, and how much did I have to drink? Like, so you're like, there becomes a you're never off thing, and so you have this a little bit of anxiety carrying your laptop around everywhere, afraid to relax because
this is making me feel so much more sane because my friends are always like, you always have your laptop at maybe the most random times. Like today, for example, I'm in Sun River. I floated the river with my friends. On our way there, I have my hotspot going on my phone. I have my laptop up and I'm just like typing away. And they're like, why do you need to do this right now? And I'm like, because I have to. Like there's always something going on. And if I don't do it, like even if I have everything I need to get done for the day done, I'm still like twitching. Like if I don't have my laptop
over your head. Yeah.
It's like, when you have that baby blanket when you're little, or the kid from Charlie Brown that drags around his blanket everywhere. That's how I feel about my laptop. Like if I don't have my laptop, I get so anxious.
Yeah.
Like just the other day,
I'll carry it with me into the gym. I will take my laptop into the
that's
gym,
another level.
And I put it in the locker in the gym. But it's just like, I know I have it in case something happens and I need to sit on the bench and write a column or something. I've got it with me, but it's just part of doing the job. Most of the time you're not, you're just carrying it with you. But
you feel so much more secure.
Yeah.
Like some people have emotional support water bottles. I have my emotional support laptop. Like I would die without my laptop.
I've written columns on my phone because I don't have it with me or I'm too far to go get it. And I'll be like,
it's so hard on your phone though. It's
I'm writing.
It's so much harder. And I can't type. Like that's one thing. I cannot type to save my life, which is I feel uncommon for my age and my generation. Like I have friends.
Are they teaching typing in high school classes anymore? Like are they doing that? No.
I actually have to tell you something really embarrassing.
Yeah.
When I type, mind you, I have to write like minimum 3 articles every day right now.
Yeah.
I only type with these 3 fingers.
Okay. You need to take a typing class. You need to take a typing class.
I did take a typing class.
Stop what we're doing right now.
I cheated. I cheated in my typing class because they would say, here are the URLs you need to type in. If you do it, you're going to get like a candy bar. And I don't care if a candy bar is involved or not. I'm going to win. And if you're not, I'm sorry, like maybe this is terrible. I'm not a cheater all the time, but there are some cases where I do believe if you're not cheating, you're trying. And in my, 6th grade typing class, I was going to cheat. Sorry, sue me. I wanted my chocolate bar. And I cheated and I won every single one.
Yeah, but you're paying for it now. You got the candy bar, but you typing with 3 fingers now. You need to act normal in a press room. You need to get the hands going.
Have you noticed? I mean, you've sat next to me while I've typed before.
No, I haven't. I'm focused on my own stuff. I'm not watching.
Good. If someone's worried about how I'm typing, they have another problem in themselves. I'd clock that. I'd be like, why are you worried about how I'm typing? Like,
here's my bigger peeve in a press room situation where people are working. I'm on deadline. I'm focused. I'm writing. There will be people in the room, and it's generally younger people, and sometimes it's the college kids who are working for the college paper or the college radio station or the college TV station who think this is time to chat and talk. And they're talking about their weekend, and they're talking... And there's about 10 or 15 people who are actually working, and I will look up and be like, I can work in a stadium where there's 60,000 people cheering and whatever. The sound doesn't get to me; it's white noise. But if you're in the room talking to your friend about your weekend while I'm trying to write a column, I'm like steaming, looking over at you, going, "Are you just unaware that people are working in this room? Like, take your conversation and go outside."
Yeah, especially when you're under a deadline, like it's stressful, but it's also so weird too because I also can't usually work with it completely quiet. Like in college, I had to go, like I couldn't really go to the library. I had to go to like the EMU, like where the Starbucks and the Chipotle
you need a little noise. You need a little noise.
Maybe not even a little noise, just other people around me, because then it's like I'm too embarrassed to like just doom scroll on my phone because I'm like, shoot, I'm sitting here with my laptop out. Yeah. I feel like I need to actually, study. Like
I probably have that condition, that misophonia condition where
I've never heard of that.
If it's when you hear a sound, it annoys you. Like if somebody's crinkling a paper or someone's chewing loudly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I think we all have it to some extent.
Yeah, we all have it to some extent. I think if somebody's eating an apple 2 seats away from you in a movie theater in the dark, it's completely annoying. But I will get it with we're in the press room setting and somebody's crinkling their potato chip bag, and I'm like, just open the bag. Like, please, just rip the bag open.
You just want to grab it from them and just open it for them and be like, here you go. I don't know. I get nervous when I'm in the movie theater because I get the cookie dough bites and then you have to open the plastic part. And I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, oh my gosh, like someone's going to like be so mad at me right now for this. Yeah. But yeah, also I wanted to ask you about that. Does it matter who it is? Is it just the sound, or if it's somebody specific, does it automatically irk you?
That's the sound. It's the sound. Okay. It could be a stranger or whatever, you know.
You're better than me.
National reporters. I've sat by national reporters in a press room setting, and they start eating an apple or something, and I'm like, really? Like, what? Yeah. This is where you want to eat an apple? It's like otherwise quiet, except we're hearing you chomping on your apple.
Also, I don't know. This might also be another hot take. Why are we eating apples at games? I'm sorry. Let's be unhealthy. Like, let's be unhealthy. They have candy. They have candy out there. Like, Oregon always has, like, you know, they match the candy up there to the uniform. There's like popcorn, like there's soda. Like, why are we eating apple? Like, why are you trying to mock me right now with how healthy?
There you go. You're making us cooler. Olivia, you do good. Thank you for reading the news. Appreciate you. Good stuff today.
Of course.